Afghanistan. That is the capital of Afghanistan, the Taliban being the controlling religious party in that country, Afghanistan being the country where we have every reason to believe Osama bin Laden, the leader of a huge terrorist network, continues to live in hiding. The Taliban has denied his presence there from time to time, but it is believed by those who follow the activities of his organization that he is in Afghanistan. So we will, of course, be watching that. Let me just, all right, Aaron, I want to go back to you now in New York.
Thank you, Judy. We have on the phone with us New York's Mayor Rudy Giuliani. Mr. Mayor, give us your best piece of information as the situation right now.
The situation right now is a massive rescue effort that's going on right now. We're trying to evacuate thousands and thousands of people. We have as many of our police and fire personnel as we have down in the southern part of Manhattan, evacuating people, trying to save as many lives as possible. We've been in communication with Governor Pataki, who's gotten the National Guard ready, and they're going to come in and relieve us a little bit later in the day.
The entire command post that I was at just started running. The wall of smoke came up behind us, and I think most of us came out of it. I lost the crew that I was with. They started setting up another command post, and then sure enough, about 5 minutes later, we were treating some of the people that had gotten trapped the first time. Someone said that the tower's leaning, We all started running, and that's when the tower came down completely. I managed to get out. A lot of the people did not, and were trapped back under the debris. Once the dust started to clear a little, we went in, took some firemen out. A lot of the firemen had already been in the building at that point. We put as many as we could on some ferries as we were by the water at this point, sent them over to Jersey City for treatment. And from that point on, it's pretty much been chaos. I mean, the New York City Emergency Service has been doing an amazing job of trying to control the chaos, but every time things get set up, there's either more explosions or more debris or more people come out of the rubble.
All right, Dan Cohen, a Fox News producer, also an emergency medical technician who has been in Lower Manhattan trying to help the wounded on this catastrophic day. We can't overstate the level of damage that's been inflicted here. It bears repeating, folks, that America is still standing. We are united, we are strong, and we will find out who did this. But for now, there are thousands, probably, of casualties in not only in Lower Manhattan, but also in Washington, D.C. Let's get the latest now from our Edie Donahue in the Fox newsroom. Edie?
Well, John, America may be standing, but we are certainly in shock. The Pentagon still in flames. Our own correspondent, David Schuster, there. An update now on exactly what happened this morning. The first shot came just about 8:50 Eastern time. That was when the first plane, an American Airlines plane that had been hijacked en route from Boston to L.A. with 92 people on board, slammed into the World Trade Center. We were just finishing up our morning show. We watched that and started speculating what was happening. Within 10 minutes, 15 minutes, the second plane had hit the second World Trade Center. That was the South Tower. That apparently, although it is not confirmed, United Airlines says it is missing Flight 175, which was en route from Boston to Los Angeles. Witnesses later say that they saw people from the top floors on fire, jumping to their death. At 9:45, the Pentagon was hit, the south wall, that apparently by American Airlines Flight 77 en route from Dulles, Washington, that is, to Los Angeles. That is a 757 plane. It was carrying 64 people. That ripped a 100 to 150-foot hole into the south ring, the south wall there, the outermost ring of the Pentagon. That, as we said, the fire sirens still wailing there, the Pentagon still on fire. At about 10 o'clock, 80 miles southwest of Pittsburgh, this United Airlines Flight 93 from Newark to San Francisco crashed. That's a 757 with 90 people on board. Now, what's interesting is that crashed just after the FAA ordered all United States commercial airliners to land at the closest possible place. Right after that order was issued, that plane crashed. Later on, the South Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. The North Tower of the World Trade Center collapsed. We do know that some people, even as high as the 92nd floor, were able to be evacuated safely. In the U.S., for the first time in history, all United States commercial aircraft have been grounded. We know that some internationally inbound flights landed in Canada, but now Canadian airlines and airports have been shut down as well. All federal buildings and most state buildings across America have been closed, and most major landmarks in the U.S. are closed. In New York City, bridges, tunnels, subways all shut down. At St. Vincent's Hospital, where many of the first victims of the World Trade Center crash were taken, we have paramedics out on the street donating, soliciting blood from any donors they can find. They say the need is that great right now. As we say, right now, America seems to be in a quandary. We have had these attacks this morning. The president apparently is safe, but we do not know where he is. He has not made a statement since the official one this morning, saying that this was a criminal act and that he would do everything to...
And they did do so.
You know, this morning, the New York Stock Exchange sort of initially, before it was determined what the explosion was, it looked...
have remained open, and we've worked with the chancellor to try to make certain that the schools will remain open for as long as they have to help parents with the kids that would be coming home, you know, starting at around 1 or 2 o'clock.
Mr. Mayor, as you know better than anyone, and certainly New Yorkers know, but people around the country perhaps do not, this was Election Day here.
They've got a number of eyewitnesses that said there was a smaller plane, unmarked, looked like a private, like a corporate jet or something like that. There's tremendous damage, however, if the Pentagon's...
I think the first concern of the FBI right now, right this second, is there going to be something else happening in the next 5 minutes, 30 minutes, hour, 12 hours? Simultaneous with that, who did it? Where are they? What do we know? What's the intelligence base? Tell us. Why didn't we see this coming? Where do we go from here? What kind of articulate, defined information can we give the National Command Authority so that we can bring the necessary massive retaliation necessary without a lot of collateral damage?
Well, Jim, thank you very much for checking in with us, and please do at any time if you have news. That photo, as Jim was talking, Jim Kallstrom, the former director of the FBI here, and a major force in the investigation of TWA 800, which blew up off the south coast of Long Island.
And the principal operator in the first World Trade Center bombing. Key investigator.
Right. But it's interesting, forgive me, no offense intended him, he doesn't have much to say either today, because in some respects there isn't much to say except the horror of it. But as we were looking at just a moment ago, listening to George Stephanopoulos talking to our reporters who witnessed the horrifying jump of some people from the top of the trade towers, you just saw a hint just ahead of this little piece of video here before, you saw a hint of what people were enduring at the top of the trade towers before they collapsed as a result of the intensity of the fire. And we've seen it before in other places around the world. Fire starts in a place, people often, ironically, not that it would have made any difference today, do the wrong thing, they get trapped in an open window by fire coming into their room, and finally they just jump, simply because if they don't jump, they're probably going to be burned alive. But as we have heard from, it's interesting that Governor Pataki is so nervous, and I don't blame him for a second, wanting to stay away from the magnitude of the casualties here today. But as John McKenzie reported from the fire department downtown, we got 200 fire department officials, 200 firefighters missing. I don't know whether or not this is a firefighter who's been brought, but you see in every case people getting oxygen because it isn't if it isn't collapse that kills in some cases like this, it is the deadly smoke. Anybody who's been involved in a fire knows the deadly smoke which suffocates people in a circumstance like this. But we're only getting touches, and it doesn't even have the chaos associated with it in many cases. We're just getting touches now of what has happened in these variety of places. The Pentagon are being kept, quite logically, I think, back at some distance. And in downtown, what's happened is that camera crews were downtown. I fear, to be perfectly honest, for some of the camera crews who work nothing braver than a cameraman either, who goes right in when something has happened and may indeed have been at some of those places. And it certainly takes time for video to get back from a location like this so that we get a widening appreciation of what has happened. But as I said, it's very hard to try to get some grasp now on the number of casualties. So we can do, in some cases, not more than just tell you how this is in terms of the whole country. The North American Air Defense Command, NORAD, is on the highest state of alert. And you had made references earlier in the morning how the United States and Canada have cooperated in trying to keep the airports locked down, lest there was another aircraft on the air. But John, talk to me about this for a second, and then we'll come to this business about fuel. Sure. You know, the North American Air Defense Command was a great factor in our lives in the 1960s.
In the Cold War, yes.
Exactly, and during the Cold War, it's up along the Northwest Territories and some of the independent areas of the North. Nobody thinks about it anymore, and here it is on a state of alert today.
No, but you factor that in, and evincing so many images that Americans are uncomfortable with. The idea that there's a no-fly zone in New York City, in Manhattan, being patrolled by F-16s with instructions to shoot down any errant aircraft, that the same is true in Washington, D.C., our nation's capital, that military people and doctors and military vehicles are coming to aid, that the National Guard is on alert. You know, the kind of images that used to only exist in the fantasies of 7 days in May, where, you know, the Army would take to the streets, which has not happened yet. They've offered assistance and military logistical assistance, but that kind of thing that Americans are so uncomfortable with unfolding here.
And I realize, by the way, just as you mentioned it, something else is very important at the moment. And again, I don't mean to say this in melodramatic terms. Where is the President of the United States? The President of the United States led, I know we don't know where he is, but pretty soon the country needs to know where he is. And it seems to, I think, for me anyway, I apologize, the President needs to talk to us. He left Florida a couple of hours ago. Our people in Washington are clearly listening and checking this as best they can. But one of the important factors at the moment is that the political leadership in the country be present, as Governor Pataki was. Mayor Giuliani of New York, made an appearance on the street and was caught unawares like everybody else, but Governor Pataki came out and basically told the citizenry of New York in a variety of different ways, I assume, just exactly what they're trying to do. Now, here's a bulletin about the President's whereabouts. The President is about to make a statement at Barksdale Air Force Base shortly. Barksdale Air Force Base is in Louisiana. So, if this is accurate, and we'll check with Claire Shipman and our other reporters at the White House, and John Cochran, if he can, in Florida at the moment, who's with the President today. The President's not coming back to Washington at the moment. We'll leave that for just a second. We'll talk a little more about this business of the aircraft and the fuel. We're trying to figure out why would a plane going from Newark to San Francisco, Boston to Los Angeles be involved in this? It could have been any plane, though, right?
It could have been, but when you consider the advantage to a terrorist, here you have a transnational flight. It's going to be a larger aircraft in each case, but, and this is the key, because we had speculated earlier, was there some additional explosives laden in these planes to cause these incredibly large explosions? It appears who's ever planned this has picked cross-country flights that would have the maximum amount of fuel you could carry on a domestic flight. Flights going from one end of the country to the other. The kind of jet that if you slammed into a building would ensure the maximum fire and explosion possible from any flight that you could have chosen. Again, Newark to San Francisco, Boston to LA, Dulles to Los Angeles, Washington to LA, Boston to LA. The planes that are being looked at in this attack today were apparently, or you could speculate, chosen to give the terrorists the very biggest bang for their effort.
And it's a very interesting point you make, because again, our assumptions tend to go when we see huge explosions like this. None of us understanding visually the power of explosives, that there were explosives on board, and so you're quite right, it may indeed have been the aircraft exploding.
I mean, John Nance could help us with this, but when you hear the amount of fuel, very flammable aeronautical fuel that's loaded onto a plane for a 3,000-mile trip or something, that's going to give you quite an explosion. Flight 800, which was an international flight, to those who saw it, was an incredible explosion.
John, if you'd sit at your station for a second, I'm just going to go and try to check one piece of information, and in that period of time, we're going to try to give you a little better sense of the disaster at the trade towers today. Here's something we've compiled, and we compile it as we go along.
I was standing next to One World Trade Center, and then all of a sudden I heard rumbling, and we all started running away from it. The glass like blew out and threw me onto the sidewalk, and I couldn't see for like 20 seconds. And then I started seeing vaguely the street, and I just started walking, and my eyesight came back.
I see you're bloody. You have dust all over you.
Yeah, it was bad. It was like a dust storm or something. Like I couldn't see anything.
How badly are you hurt?
I have no idea.
As soon as he got hit, I was thrown to a window. So I was very lucky to get out. There's a lot of people that didn't get out. There's a lot of people coming down the stairs, burnt up. It's bad.
We just come out of Tower 1. We were walking towards Broadway. They're saying, move along, move along, move along. I looked up as soon as we got across the street. I looked up. I saw the tower start to buckle. I just turned and ran, ducked down, put a jacket over my head. 3 or 4 of us huddled together, and it was just black everywhere.
Were you covered? Were you hit with debris?
No. But I mean, I was ducked behind a subway cover, so I put with the jacket over. The 3 of us, all of us huddled together. There was, dust and whatnot everywhere, but it was.
Building has just come down. The second everyone's being asked to get down, come down.
Can't even look at it because all I can see are people. I don't see a building. I see people. People hurt. Children without mothers and fathers tonight.
If you're just joining us, you probably already know the World Trade Center towers, the Twin Towers, the New York landmarks have collapsed and are gone. The Pentagon has been hit by an airplane, a series of hijackings apparently today at the root of this. What we know is hundreds, if not thousands, are injured, no count on the deceased yet, and that the investigation, a massive investigation, is just beginning to unfold.
But John, I stepped aside there, among other things, the moment to try to get some sort of sense from people who talk to, because as soon as this happens, people begin to think about a response. We don't expect a response to come in the immediate future by any means, but I was just talking to Charlie Gibson from Good Morning America, and he'd been thinking about the same thing, that the response to this from the United States is going to have to be massive. They have to accomplish something in some way, because so much of the response to terrorism before by a large nation such as this, which is not impotent, but very limited in its capacity to operate at this kind of level. You were mentioning earlier the attacks against Osama bin Laden's training camps in Afghanistan. In retrospect, they spent, as you pointed out, more than $1 million per cruise missile. I've forgotten how many they sent. They didn't get anything. They didn't get anything. They didn't do anything. So it's an enormous challenge for a powerful nation to respond in an effective way, and the Pentagon is still burning, and today the World Trade Center towers have gone. Diane Sawyer is down in Times Square at the moment, and among other things, I think has been trying to get some grasp of the number of casualties involved. And it must be very difficult, Diane.
It's impossible, Peter, no matter how many people you call, and of course, no matter what the facts we get now, one can only imagine what the facts will be later. I want to give you a sense of what it's like here in Times Square right now, because if you look outside, we have hundreds upon hundreds upon hundreds of people standing outside, just stopping still, a kind of respectful witness, looking up at the screens where we're broadcasting the pictures. They can't hear the sound. They are simply looking at the wordless horror and standing to show, in a way, respect. And I want to show you something else, because people have been sent home from Times Square, and across the way, the construction workers who were building the Toys R Us building next door to us just hung their signs outside. God bless America, and pray for families and victims. And we can only, of course, add to that that as crisply as we try to report what's happening here today, we join them. And this is not just another story, even for reporters who've been trained to do this for so long. A few things to add since this morning. We were on the air, of course, live when suddenly we get word of that first explosion at the World Trade Center, the first building. And initially, of course, we didn't know if it was an accident. We didn't know what had happened, and then we were on the air live when the second plane came in, and the second plane in from wherever they were to help out all the emergency medical services.
Down, as you said, and members are basically scattered around the city, but we're going to get back to work because we're going to convince these cowards that America doesn't back down, that our activities...
We're at war.
We're at war. We're absolutely at war. This is 21st century war.